This information affects everybody. As many of you might know, interest rates are super high because the government is trying to tame inflation. For those of you who are new, my name is Mortgage George and I help homebuyers in all 50 states move into their first home, their investment properties, whatever it may be. I help you make those purchases. The chart is pretty self-explanatory. Inflation came in at 4.9% for the month of April. That's great news because that's the 10th month in a row that we've seen a decline in inflation. Now, if you came across my page, you're probably wondering, should I buy a house now or should I wait? Like, are rates coming down because of this data? I always recommend to buy a home when you can afford to buy a home. It's always going to be a case-by-case basis, but when you can afford it, do so. And also if it makes sense, because if you're moving for your job like every year or two, it probably doesn't make sense unless when you buy a home in a certain area, you can then rent it out a year later. So like the cash flow makes sense. And the reason why I'm still recommending that is the government has a few more meetings along this year. I forget what they're called, but it's whether or not they want to hike the interest rates even more. Whether or not they actually do so is really up in the air because it depends on a lot of factors. One of those factors being the unemployment rate. If they don't see it increase the way they want it to, they might actually increase it a couple more times. But I only see like a quarter point every single time. So at the very highest, if it does happen, we might see the mid 7s to high 7s interest rate wise. And that's just my opinion. I don't think it's actually going to happen. I could very much see them waiting on a couple more months of data and seeing that inflation is steadily declining. And as long as unemployment stays steady or increases a little bit, I think interest rates will remain steady for the rest of the year. By the end of quarter four or by the beginning of 2024, if we see a bigger increase to unemployment and a bigger decline to inflation, I think that's when we'll see the interest rates start to decline. Again, this is just my opinion on what could happen with interest rates. Again, take it with a grain of salt because there's so many things that could happen in the world. For example, if we go to war with another country, you might see interest rates come down a lot because they want to provide relief for the economy so people keep spending money so they can fund the military and shit like that. I don't really understand all of that part of it, but that does happen. Now, if you're wondering how interest rates react or what they track, yada, 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 they track the 10-year treasury note very closely. If you look at the below chart, when rates hit 7.5% back in November and December, that's when we were at that tippy top point right there. So as you can see, we've been on a slow decline. It tracks this very closely. So if you want to watch this day by day and see how mortgage rates might react, this will give you a good idea. Thanks for listening to me rant. If you enjoyed this video, press like, press follow. I post every day. If you want to see me rant more like this, comment it and let me know. I need to know, is it worth posting these long rants? I don't know. Tell me.